You ready, Becky? Scoot over.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Scoot over
Like a
to
jungle
your.
gym.
Yeah. Good morning, everybody. Let us know if you can hear us in the comments if we're having any issue. My name is Josh Metton with the Teton Raptor Center, and this is our Facebook Live. Today's topic is backyard raptors. We've got education director Becky Collier and some avian ambassadors from the Raptor Center in Wilson, Wyoming. Today we're going to learn about some of these birds, their adaptations, and what we can do to take care of them and conserve them. Please let us know any questions you have in the comments, and also share this live event with your friends so more people can watch. A little bit about Jackson Hole Ecotour Adventures real quick. We are a company that's been in our operation for over 12 years now in Jackson, Wyoming. We do wildlife tours of Grand Teton Yellowstone National Park 365 days a year. We also offer guided cross-country skiing and snowshoeing tours in the wintertime. As part of our commitment to conservation, we donate 2.5% of our profits to conservation orgs, just like the Teton Raptor Center. And we're really excited to be partnering with Becky and the team at TRC for this little Facebook Lives series. So with that, I'm going to introduce Becky and let her take it from here and talk about a little bit about the Raptor Center before we get going.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. As Josh said, my name is Becky Collier, and I'm with the education team at Teton Raptor Center. And the Raptor Center is a nonprofit organization. We're one of over 200 nonprofits in Jackson Hole. And our mission is threefold. Everything we do is for raptors specifically. Our mission is to advance raptor conservation in three ways. The first thing we do is research. So we have a research team headed up by our research director, Brian Bedrosian, and he's out with his team. We are working on anywhere between 10 and 15 projects at one time. Two of our big projects include great gray owls and golden eagle migration, along with non-lead ammunition and the effects of lead in the environment on raptors. Lots of different things going on with our research team. So that's really important work here in the greater Yellowstone ecosystem. And then if a bird, a raptor specifically, if they become ill, injured, or orphaned in this area, in an area really within about a 300-mile radius, Teton Raptor Center is also a rehabilitation center. So we're a bird hospital. We take them in, fix them up with the goal to get them out. And in the event they survive their injuries, but they're not able to go back to the wild, we are also an education program. So that's some of the birds that we're going to meet today are birds that live at Teton Raptor Center full time. They're not able to be released. We'll learn their stories as we go. And so research, rehabilitation, and education are our three pillars. Those are the three things that we do.
Excellent. Before we get some of those ambassadors on, I wanted to talk a little bit about what we've been seeing in the Jackson Hole area recently. Spring's an awesome time for birding and watching migrating raptors returning to the area. Recently, we've been able to see some Swainsons Hawks. They're a great bird that migrates back to the Jackson Hole area all the way from South America, some 6,000 miles. Here's a photo of one perched, and then the next photo here is one flying. Becky, you want to talk a little bit about how you can kind of get the identification of those down?
Yeah, so Swainsons Hawks are just not a casual migrator. That is one of the longest land migrators on planet Earth, and they are just incredibly cool birds to behold. And it's a really exciting sign of spring when they show back up. They're often mistaken for red-tailed hawks. They're about the same size. One big difference is that a red-tailed hawk, generally, there are a lot of color variations among red tails, but red tails tend to have a belly band of color, and Swainsons Hawks have more of a bib of color. Swainsons Hawks are also very dark on the back edge of their wings, and red tails tend to be darker on the leading edge of the wings. So when they're soaring, they're a bootio, so they're in the same family as the red tails, but when they're soaring, they can be pretty easy to distinguish. So yeah, very cool stuff. We love Swainsons Hawks here. They're a very exciting sign of spring.
Great. And And Becky, you were mentioning earlier that recently that Raptor Center had a new patient come in, an Osprey. And do you want to talk a little bit about that? I'm going to show an image of what happened to this Osprey next.
Yes, please. So, in addition to rehabilitating, the number one reason birds end up in our clinic is collisions of some sort. But running in those, probably the top 3 or 4 causes for admission are entanglement. And osprey are a really good example of that. They're another bird that we get very excited about when they show back up in the springtime because they migrate out for the winter. So, no osprey in Jackson Hole in the wintertime. They usually show up late April, early May. Everyone gets very excited because they're another sign of spring. And we got a call a couple of weeks ago about an osprey whose legs were entangled in fishing line, and it had a fishing hook from a fishing gear embedded into its foot. And so we were able to remove the hook. The rehabilitation crew, headed by Jess Schonegg, she and the team, they removed the hook, and the bird had to undergo a round of antibiotics because of the danger of infection with something like that. So the good news is there were no other injuries for the bird, just a little bit of rest and a 7-day round of antibiotics. And we were able to release that bird a few days ago back into the wild. So a really good turnaround, a really good success story, but really a very, very easy fix. A bird that quite frankly just didn't need to come in. Accidents happen. We understand that things are going to happen in nature, and accidents may happen with humans and wildlife interaction, but fishing line and fishing hooks and baling twine from hay bales, a lot of times folks don't realize the baling twine is so hazardous to the osprey. They'll grab that baling twine and put it back in the nest, take it up to their babies, and then they all become entangled in the twine. So those are all things that are really easy. Pick them up if you see them, and let's try to minimize that happening as much as we can. So,
Excellent. Well, Becky, let's meet some birds. Do you want to bring on some of the first birds for our little Facebook Live today?
Absolutely. And our first creatures have actually been with me the whole time. I probably look like I'm standing awkwardly because I've been holding them outside of the shot. But our first birds with us today are our resident screech owls. So this is Otis and Train. Otis is the gray screech owl there at the end of my hand, and Train is the one not looking. Eastern screech owls are found from North Dakota, all the way down to Texas and east. So they're found throughout the eastern United States. They're pretty willing to live in and around and near humans. They might even use an old nest up on someone's porch or in a tree in your yard. So they're a really common bird to see. And I apologize, they're mostly focused on me because I'm the nearest predator. So they're concerned with where I am at this point. I'm just going to move my computer a little bit here. There we go. And so screech owls are found throughout the eastern U.S. And where they nest is really quite cool. So these are what's called a cavity nesting bird, meaning that they like to find little holes that they can nest in. And that includes the cavities of trees. That also means that you can put up a nest box for these guys and they'll pretty readily move into it. So having these guys around is a huge advantage. They love to feed on insects, and they like to feed on things like moles and mice and voles. So these guys are a really beneficial animal to have around in your yard.
Awesome. Why can't these guys be out in the wild again, Becky?
Yeah, great question. So Train and Otis both live at Teton Raptor Center. They're both victims of collisions.
Yeah.
Otis, the little gray guy, is presumed to have been a car strike, and he has limited vision. He can find his food, but can't see well enough to hunt. And then little Train here, who does have a face. Come on, kid. Nope, sassy pants. Not going to happen. Hold on, we'll try. Train is a presumed train strike, and she is named for a really cool local naturalist named Bert Raines, Rayne. And Train was clipped by a train. Both of these birds were picked up in the state of Alabama, and both failed hunting school. So Train with a little bit of a wing injury, Otis with the vision, just not able to be released back into the wild.
Excellent. Let's see here. What else would these guys be feeding on and hunting?
Yeah, so they might also take small birds. They have been documented taking down bats, which is fairly
No
amazing.
way.
The problem, yeah, it's kind of incredible. Certainly not a primary part of the diet, but they're capable. So screech owls, they're small, but they're actually incredibly powerful. And it's worth noting that most areas have small cavity nesting owls. Here in Jackson Hole, we really don't have the screech owl. There's the western screech owl is all gray. So all western screech owls are gray. Eastern screech owls come in both of these colors, the gray and the red. But the western screech owls are found throughout the western U.S., not really down into the super dry areas, but they're found throughout the western U.S. And they're feeding on just all the little stuff, right? It's really cool if you have these guys in your yard. A lot of people and they want to attract owls into their yard, but they forget that having owls means you have to have the things that owls feed on. Mm-hmm. So you can't put out a bunch of rat poison. You want to encourage, you can do things like put a brush pile when you're grabbing sticks after storms and your grass, grass clippings and all those things. You can actually just put all that on the back edge of your yard, and that can become a brush pile, which can be a safe haven for the rodents, right? So you're drawing the animals away from your house, giving them a really great place to live, and that will then give these guys something to eat in your yard. So you're creating the entire habitat. I mentioned that we have other types of small owls. These guys are tiny, but they're not the smallest. These guys weigh about 1/4 pound each. And in Jackson Hole, these guys weigh about 150 grams-ish right now. And in Jackson Hole, we actually have 4 owls this size and smaller. So we have the boreal owl, which is about this size. We also have the northern saw-whet owl, which is about 2/3 this size. And then here in this area, we have 2 really tiny owls, the flammulated owl and the northern pygmy owl. So really, those guys are about 1/3 the size of these guys. So really tiny owls. If a bird can fly, this is important to note, if a bird can fly, it's full size. So they hatch out of their egg, they grow to full size, then they fly. So if a bird is this size, these aren't babies, these are adult birds. Mm-hmm. So that's one clue as to whether or not you're seeing a baby owl or just a small species of owl. They're just like dogs. When you see these guys, you got to think Chihuahua.
Excellent.
Yeah. Do you want to check and see, Josh, is there anything pertinent to these guys is anybody asking any questions or do we want to move on to our next guy?
I wanted to add actually, oops, hold on just a second. I'm switching the video so we can get a little closer look at these owls.
Oh, yes, please.
So, you recently did a video on the Raptor Center Instagram page of what do you do if you find an owl on the ground? This is a time of year where actually there are a lot of baby owls or other birds that you might find in the ground on the ground. And what should you do if you find a little baby bird on the ground?
Great question. So whether it's an injured bird or a baby bird, if you see these birds, the first thing to do is to not immediately pick them up. There's a great video that Josh is referring to that we were being a little silly, but it's an important message. The first thing people do when they find baby animals is they scoop them up and want to take them home. And then they get home and they realize, oh, wait a minute, I'm not this thing's mother and I don't know how to take care of it. So then we try to raise them as we would a pet. We try to offer them a bunch of food. We try to console them. We try to cuddle them. But these guys are not social animals. They don't enjoy contact. They don't enjoy hanging out. They don't hang out in big flocks or anything like that. These two happen to be roommates, and so they tolerate each other, but it's by no means this big social attraction. So first mistake we make is that we just try to socialize with them. The other is food. These guys feed on whole prey in the wild. They feed on rodents, they feed on insects, and they feed on the whole thing. They feed on the bone and the fur, everything about the animal. And so unfortunately, we often try to feed them the meat that we have in our refrigerator. And that's things like chicken and ground beef. And it's not the bone and it's not the skin and the fur. It's just pieces of it. And there's no nutrition in that for these guys. It's not what they need. The last thing to remember is that that usually mom and dad are nearby. So just like any baby animal, mom and dad have to go feed and go hunt. And so mom and dad are checking on them. Mom and dad are making sure they're okay. And when you scoop them up, you're not helping. It's called kidnapping in most parts of the country. So we have to be mindful that they may not be injured at all. And so the best thing we can do if you find a baby bird, leave it alone. If you're still concerned a few hours later, call your local rehabilitation center and talk them through it and just try to decide if the bird does need to be brought in. But try to fight the urge to pick them up right away and leave them where they are. They stand their best chance when they're raised by mom and dad. I don't know how to fly, and I don't know how to catch things with my toes. So they need mom and dad to show them those things. The other thing to note, I should say real quick, Josh, is that owls are notorious for leaving their nest well before they can fly. So these guys, they fly, they're on the ground, they're big fluff nuggets on the ground. They're not able to fly yet, but they're where they're supposed to be. They didn't fall out of the nest, they jumped. Mom and dad are still feeding them on the ground, and most of these guys can still climb almost vertical trunks without branches and get themselves back to the nest if they need to. So keep that in mind too. They may appear in danger, but they're probably not.
Yeah, that was one of the things that was very interesting to learn. I got a chance to go out with the Raptor Center a few years ago and capture great gray owlets, which we're going to talk about in our next Raptor Center live. And it's pretty funny to think of these birds, the babies, looking at their parents flying in and out and deciding that I can fly too, and just taking a jump and then kind of tumbling to the ground and realizing, oh, I guess I can't quite fly yet, but I'm totally fine, and I'm going to do, and all of them do it. So something to give them some space if you see them, and kind of enjoy the sighting, and then withdraw and let them go about living their lives. Becky, do you want to anything else about the screech owls, or should we move on to another bird?
No, I think that's great. I think Amanda's putting one away, and I'm going to put the other one away. But yeah, we do have couple of other birds for you today that we want you to meet. So Amanda's going to put hers away real quick, and I am going to sorry about that. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to share a little bit of how we give these guys enrichment. So with some of our birds, we have birds that are capable of flight, and we try to give them as much exercise and enrichment as we can. And a lot of that will happen in the springtime. So what we'll do is their weight has gone up during the winter months. Teton Raptor Center is in the process of building new facilities for our birds this summer. We're very, very excited about that, the capital project. But right now our birds are in temporary facilities. They're still very, very nice, but they're not super winterized. And so the birds, it gets cold at night here in Jackson Hole. So we let the birds get really fat and happy in the winter months. We let them just gain their weight and get fat and happy. And then in the springtime, we start to drop their weight slowly, and we bring them down to a weight where they would want to hunt in the wild. So it's important to note that weight, there's a lot of misconceptions about a bird being at flight weight. Oh, this one's ready to go. A lot of misconceptions about a bird being at their flight weight. One thought is that hold on, let me get him out so he can see what we're doing. Can't talk around this, huh?
Any guesses as to what bird we got? Oh, there it is.
Oh, did somebody get it? Yeah, so this is Hunter, everyone, our peregrine falcon. And so Hunter is coming down to what we call his flight weight. So this is the weight where he would be a little more interested in hunting in the wild. If a bird is full, they're not going to go wasting their energy on hunting, right? They're just going to, I'm going to bring the computer around here. Amanda, there you go. You're awesome. All right, so if they're too hungry, one misconception about working a bird for their food is that, they're just starving. They're just starving to death. Absolutely not. If a bird in the wild is too hungry, they quit flying. They quit trying to hunt. And so what we do is we bring their weights down. We attach them to a creance line so that they can get back into practice for what they're doing. And Hunter here, the reason he lives at Teton Raptor Center is because he hatched with congenital infections in both of his eyes. So he was unable to see really well as a baby. And the really cool thing about Hunter is that he hatched on a webcam. And this is the time of year for all of you to check in on nest cams. Our website, I'm not sure about EcoTour Adventures, but we have a whole page on our website linking you to different nest cams across the country. And so Hunter hatched on a nest cam, and that's how they knew who he was and all about his family. And we'll let him have this first one. Come get it. So Hunter hatched on a webcam. There were 4 babies in the nest, and he hatched in a city. So in the wild, peregrine falcons nest on cliffs, but in cities, these guys will nest on skyscrapers. So you can check out his nest cam right now. It's called the Woodman Life Tower, and Hunter hatched the first week of May 4 years ago. He's 4 this year. And these multi others will He hatched on the Woodman Life Tower in Omaha. And if you check out that link, he has 4 new siblings right now, 4 little babies on the Woodman Life Tower that you can totally check out. Are you done? Good enough? Peregrines like to pick their food. They like to get every little bite in, clean, clean, clean. They take their time. So Hunter is learning. He's really good at flying to the perch, and he's learning to hop to the glove. So his vision now is essentially okay, but he's got some residual issues with depth perception, and he just struggles with understanding the whole concept of flying. And so this guy, he knows the drill. He knows his perch. He's warming up. Is it not bright enough for you? There we go. And it's really cool to see a peregrine when they're flying. They flap their wings a whole lot, and they've got beautiful, long, pointed wings. And that helps them navigate. Oh, that's too big. That's called being spoiled. I don't know if anyone's curious about what he's being fed right now. Today, he's getting a combination of quail and Mises pieces. So he's getting a couple of different things to eat today. But having these guys on buildings in cities helps with pigeon control. So raptors, even if you don't care about raptors, they are doing incredibly wonderful things to help out humans without us even having to pay them, without us having to ask. You're missing all these little nuggets. You're missing all the good stuff, Hunter. And so Hunter here will get some exercise. We'll bring him out every day. He's to the point that he works for all of his diet, and he gets, usually once he's warmed up, he's a little better at going a little further. We'll see if today's the day. He's pretty good at finding his way, but peregrine falcons are one of the larger falcons in North America. And they're found primarily, if you get outside of cities, they're mostly going to be found in areas with cliffs. So they do pretty well there. I know he likes to fly. This is called being a little bit of a prince, having us hand him his diet. Mm-hmm. So that's Hunter. I just thought he'd be kind of fun to say hello to and to understand that these guys live in all different habitats. And because falcons are aerial hunters, they can catch things like voles and mice, but they're really good at catching other birds because they love to grab their food out of the air. This is the fastest animal on planet Earth when they dive. The fastest one ever clocked was going 242 miles an hour. So these guys are really, really incredibly fast birds when they're in motion. So really, really neat stuff to see these guys.
And it's amazing to think that they were an endangered species and we almost lost them. And now you can see them in New York City and Chicago and a lot of these urban areas where we think of as being not as wild, but if you look around, you've got this amazing falcon that almost disappeared from Earth, living in these urban areas.
That is so true. That is so true, and it's worth noting the recovery of the peregrine falcons were pushed back by almost the exact same thing as bald eagles. It was DDT. So they were pushed to the brink of extinction, and captive breeding is really what saved the peregrine falcon. Much in thanks to the Peregrine Fund over in Boise, Idaho, and a lot of different biologists across the nation helping to captive breed these guys to bring them back. So it would be a huge loss for this planet if we had lost the peregrine.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Well, Becky, let's. Do we have time for one more raptor? And then
absolutely.
We do have some audience questions that we can get to as well after that.
Yes, for sure. So we are going to meet the last bird we're going to meet today. We're going to put Hunter away here. And the last bird I'd like to introduce you to is the most common raptor in North America. So I'm not sure if everybody knows who that is. The most common raptor in North America. Well, I say most common. It's the most common diurnal raptor. Some people would argue the great horned owl is the most common. But this is the most common diurnal raptor. And this is hardiman, everyone. So first things first, we'll let him show you what he is. Hopefully that helps. Anybody guessing, Josh? Josh can see the screen. I can't.
I'm sure we have some guesses. I would there's a little bit of a
So,
delay from our live stream to the Facebook
right. So
So
we won't know until we'll give him a minute. Well,
well,
this is our red-tailed hawk. So red-tailed hawks, like I said, considered to be among, if not the most common raptor in North America. Hardiman here is also working on his springtime flying, but he is really taking his time these days. Again, getting a bird to their flight weight. This guy is down. He needs to lose about another 40 grams to really care a whole lot about his diet. But he's learning. Come on, you want another bite? So the
too much work to jump, huh?
Yeah, this is called training the trainer. If he takes his time here, he's waiting to see if I'll cave and just hand it to him, which sometimes I do because he's cute. But hardiman is probably, when we think about our backyard birds and we think about the importance of raptors in the environment, Hardiman's story is very similar to Otis's, and I think that he has one of the most important things to share. He knows what's in my pouch here. You can tell that he gets excited about that. Okay, buddy, you can have another bite, only because you're cute. So he is getting some rat today. Yum, yum, yum. So hardiman here he's actually also an Alabama bird. Hunter's from Omaha, Nebraska. Screeches were from Alabama. Hardiman is also a north central Alabama bird. He's from the area of Coleman. And he was hit by a vehicle on the interstate. It's really easy. We get very excited when we see, I know I do too, but we all are guilty of being very excited when we see hawks up on the power poles driving down the road, driving down the interstate. I count the ones that I see. I count all the kestrels and everything that I'm seeing. So these guys get super excited. If you could maybe just set him around the corner, Amanda, that'd be stellar. These guys get really excited about hunting along the interstate because the interstate is the perfect storm for hunting. So we put our power poles along the interstate and fence lines along the interstate. So it gives the birds somewhere to perch, easy place to look and watch for food. And then along a lot of our roadways in the US, when the grass starts to get deep, we mow the grass. So that makes it even easier to spot their food. So now we've created really easy hunting as far as just finding the food. Then we attract prey to the roadways. And we do that by feeding our highways. A lot of us understand and would never litter. Litter's terrible. Oh, that's horrible. But we forget even things like apple cores are litter. So if you're eating that apple and you're down to the last bite and you don't want to eat the core, you throw it out the window and you think, oh, whatever, I'm planting a tree. It's biodegradable. What's the harm? Well, things like food scraps along our roadways then attract rodents and rabbits and squirrels and chipmunks. All the little small animals are drawn to the sides of the highway, making them, again, it's just setting them up for easy, free hunting. The problem is these guys have no clue what cars are. They don't understand how to avoid a vehicle. And so that's what happened to hardiman. He was struck full speed on the interstate. The amazing thing is that he did not suffer any broken bones. I don't know how these birds are able to sustain such collisions sometimes without broken bones. Oh, he wants another bite. They're able to survive that. The downside is he took the bulk of the hit with his head, and that resulted in the loss of vision in his right eye. And so unfortunately, he's not able to be released because he's lost his binocular vision. He's not able to have that great depth perception with both eyes anymore. And unfortunately, again, that's the number one reason birds come to Teton Raptor Center with injuries is collisions with cars, with windows. And so there's really important messages there for us when it comes to don't feed the highways.
Awesome. Yeah. One of the things that the Raptor Center's been, or that Ecothrough Ventures has been working on in the last couple of years is helping to advocate and fund for wildlife crossings for big animals. So in addition to these small animals that you're mentioning that the raptors like to hunt, I've also observed red-tailed hawks scavenging carcasses of roadkill deer on the sides of the road as well. And so in Wyoming, a big issue is we lose thousands of animals to roadkill and deer and elk and moose and things like that. And so we've been working to try and reduce that. Last year, we passed a $10 million SPET ballot initiative to fund wildlife crossings in this area. And not only is that going to help the big animals, the charismatic megafauna, it's going to also it's also going to help the charismatic mini fauna as well. Yeah, anything else that you wanted to add about hardiman and red-tailed hawks?
I think that's really true. I love what you said about roadkill, Josh. I think that's so true, and that's another huge reason for our eagle admittance is them getting struck by vehicles. Eagles are huge scavengers of that roadkill. So, yeah, that's valid, and the wildlife crossings really are effective, and we know that. So, very cool. And as far as red-tailed hawks, I just think another cool thing to note is that with raptors, they exhibit sexual dimorphism, which just means that the male and the females, while they have the same plumage, they do not. Oh, he's like, it's time to work. I know where we are. While they do exhibit the same plumage, so a female would look just like this, they are different in size. So hardiman here is a boy, and we know that for a couple of reasons. One, he's never laid eggs. Two, he's small. And three, we had his DNA tested. So hardiman weighs in at about 900 grams. And we have a female red-tailed hawk. Her name is Ruby. She weighs in at closer to 1,300 grams. So they're the females tend to be about a third larger. This time of year, as your red tails are getting ready to nest, potentially in trees near your home or along the roadways, if you spot a red-tailed hawk nest, you can usually tell who's mom and who's dad if they're sitting side by side. Mom is the bigger one. So that's kind of fun to note when you're looking into your backyard. Awesome. Oh, and this is rousting, and that just means that he's relaxed, which is a good sign, and that he's guts on my face.
It's very interesting because you would think in a lot of animals the males tend to be bigger, but with raptors almost all of them are the females are quite a bit larger.
Yeah, so that's my favorite raptor fact. The girls are bigger.
Favorite raptor fact as well. So we had one nice question that I wanted to address. Going back to the osprey that we were talking about earlier, and unfortunately I don't have a photo of an osprey, but they're a white bird similar. They look a little similar to an eagle, but a bit smaller. There was a question about if we have increased snowmelt and how that's affecting the hunting habits and success rates of osprey with the rivers getting cloudy. Like, what do they do when right now when we're having all these muddy rivers to hunt?
Yeah, osprey have really good vision, and they have polarized vision, which helps. It is true that as the waters get cloudy, the osprey will also move toward water that's not in quite as much motion. So things like ponds and lakes, that don't have they can go toward the edges of those. That's really helpful for their hunting. But osprey are so effective at what they do. Keep in mind that raptors in general, yes, they're predators, but they also go for what's easy. Right. So if there's a fish that's struggling near the surface, or as trout are going upstream and things like that, there are things that can be done that make the fish a little more obvious going into shallower water for hunting. Yeah. So there are things the birds can do to overcome that. And the osprey do that every year. And the water gets cloudy here every year. And they seem to make their way. And it's really fun to note that bald eagles do enjoy fish, but they mostly enjoy whatever somebody else just caught. So the bald eagles really just sit and wait for the osprey to do the work when they can. So yeah, that works to their advantage as well.
It is amazing to think about these birds and how good their vision is compared to ours, and what they can see. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was along the Snake River, and it was pretty muddy, and sure enough, watched a bald eagle swoop down and nab a fish in the muddy water, and I was just shocked at its ability to see that in that water.
Yeah, so, they've got skills that we can't quite fathom. Yeah. So
animal superpowers, which is why we love these things.
Indeed.
So I think we're gonna wrap up for this week, but I want to thank everybody for joining. Please share this broadcast. We'll have it posted on both the Teton Raptor Center and the Facebook page. We'll be putting it on our YouTube and Instagram television as well. A few quick things to note. Tomorrow, Jacksonville Ecotours is doing a weekly wildlife roundup at 5:30 p.m. Mountain Time, and that's the latest wildlife sightings, and that's hosted by our naturalist Tenley Thompson. we're currently, Ecotours is currently closed due to the parks being closed, but we're hoping to reopen by late May or early June. So we hope to see folks coming in and exploring our parks is in a safe manner. Also, this partnership is continuing next Thursday, the 21st, at 5:30 p.m. with a virtual happy hour with Raptor Center biologist Catherine Gura, who's also the author of Phantom of the North, which was a photo collaboration with a local photographer here, Steve Mathis, on great gray owls, and that's actually available in our store, and a portion of those sales are going to the Raptor Center. Becky, before we finish up today, is there anything else that our audience can do to help Raptors and help the Teton Raptor Center with their mission?
Yes, absolutely. And Josh, to you and to Taylor and everybody at EcoTour Adventures, we also want to give you a huge hearty thank you for setting this up and handling all of the technology amazingness and getting this organized. So thank you to you, Josh. We've had a good time. We've really been enjoying getting ready for this and looking forward to next week with Catherine. It is important. Yes, everybody, there are little things you can do to help raptors in your yard. We already mentioned things like brush piles, putting up nest boxes, leaving the dead trees standing when you can. They rot out and have great cavities for some of your cavity nesting birds. Don't litter. Pick up litter when you see it. Don't feed those highways. Think about slowing down at dusk and dawn. Lots and lots of opportunities and things that you can do to help raptors in your area. Teton Raptor Center is also really engaging in a lot of virtual programming, just like EcoTour Adventures. We've got a Zoom class being offered on Thursday, picking apart pellets that you can send us an email to register. We'll get you the Zoom information. That's geared toward youth, K through 12th grade, if you know any kids. And we also have some cool virtual stuff going on, some virtual opportunities to meet our birds. We're popping into Zoom meetings almost every day now. So if you've got a Zoom meeting that you're dreading and you're thinking, oh, how can we make this more fun? Or if you just want to surprise the folks that you're meeting with, whether it's family or business, check out our website and you can potentially sign on to get one of our birds to pop into your Zoom meeting. We would love to see you there too. So lots going on. Visit our website. Thank you to EcoTours. Be sure to look up lots of birds out and about right now.
Awesome. Well, yeah, lots to see around there. And thanks again, Becky, and all of the avian ambassadors. And we'll see you again next week. I'm going to put up a little information about that event next week now. And but we'll sign off here and look for these broadcasts on our Facebook pages, both EcoTour Adventures and the Raptor Center. Thanks again.
Beautiful. Thanks, Josh. Have a great day.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.